Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the How to Deal with Cloud Security webinar on Proofpoint. My name is Giovanni from Exclusive Networks. I am the BDM for Proofpoint within the Benelux region. So hi and good morning. Marcus, I'm going to pass the word to you and I'll let you introduce yourself and
Yes, hello everybody. Good morning from my end as well. So my name is Marcus Pauli. I'm the ATG Advanced Technology Group sales specialist, and my main focus is cloud security as well as web isolation. So I'm looking forward to having a nice webinar with you all, and hope that is going to be beneficial for your day-to-day work in the space of cloud security. I'm working for Proofpoint now for about 6 months, a little bit longer than that. So I'm pretty fresh into this organization. I worked before for several other IT security vendors, so I know the market, quite well, I believe. Okay, so let's start. Or is anything else to take care of, Giovanni?
no, we're okay Giovanni? To start.
Okay, then yeah. Without further ado, let's start with my small presentation. It's going to be a few slides, but let's get started. And yeah, so first of all, I'd like to introduce Proofpoint a little bit to you. For those guys of you, or for those participants who have not been yet in touch with Proofpoint so often. So in general, we are one of the top 10 cybersecurity companies in the world. With about 4,000 employees working for Proofpoint globally, with roughly $1 billion turnover on an annual basis. So that's quite impressive, I believe. And even though we are, let's say, in the market for, I think 18 years already, or 15 years, something like that. We are still a little bit like the new kids on the block in some instances. What else to say about Proofpoint is that we the most deployed solution in the Fortune 100 sector for email security, as well as in the Fortune 1000, and even the Global 2000 is one of our sweet spots for our solution. When dealing with the leading threat vector, which is still email, the email channel. Besides our email security gateway, where we are leaders now for 7 consecutive years, we are of course active in the security awareness training space with the acquisition of Wombat a couple of years ago. So there we have also very well offering for our customers and also for the channel, of course. We are also very well positioned in the information archiving space. So everything that deals with auditing of email communications, especially interesting for highly regulated verticals such as the finance vertical. So here we have some very nice offerings as well. And yes, of course, Cloud Access Security Broker, the story I'd like to present today, is also one of the areas where Proofpoint is very well positioned, currently still in the leading challenger quadrant, but of course we hope to be positioned in the leaders quadrant with the next magic quadrant coming up this year. Hopefully this will work. On the other hand, we have also a technology partnership with well-known brands such as Palo Alto Networks, a company I worked for before, for example, as well as SIEM provider, SIEM solution, Splunk, endpoint security solution, CrowdStrike, and identity provider, Okta. So that's our technology integration, our major partners in this space. So looking forward, hopefully this is also interesting to you guys, and interesting space to work in, especially protecting the #1 threat vector. Email is one of our key areas. Now let's start into the cloud security space. So first of all, I'd like to set the scene a little bit with a newspaper clip I like to present and like to show here. It's about Lazio Rome. Lazio Rome fell for a 2 million transfer fee email scam a couple of years ago. so it's not brand new, but it's quite nice to understand, I believe. So as you are probably well aware from the medias, etc., if a football player is changing clubs, there is lots of money involved in transfer fees and of course payments for the players and the consultants, etc., and the managers. In this case, as it happened quite nicely, that somebody was able to compromise a cloud account, Office 365 account in this case. This person was able to read very interesting emails around this player transfer and about the different contractual terms and conditions, when to pay whom at a certain point in time, to which account. So it was possible for this attacker to create an email, a very crafty email, to the finance guy to tell him, listen, oh, there's a nice change, or there's a recent change in bank account details. Please transfer the due amount of 2 million euros, not to the previously mentioned account with, I don't know what, Deutsche Bank Germany, but please send it to our bank in China or Cayman Islands or whatever. So in the end, this was a very perfect scam. It happened. 2 million euros had been lost. I think there was hardly any recovery for this. And also the person receiving the email wasn't really blamed, because it looked so real to him that there was hardly any evidence that this email is a fraud. Which brings us to the next slide and shows us what the modern landscape is currently looking like. So if we analyze all the threats that we've seen with our email security solutions as well as cloud security solutions, we see that only one type of attack has been based on a vulnerability. So on a software gap, or on a wrong written or bad written software somewhere. All the other attacks, as you can see from the slides, have been based on the people, on somebody clicking on a link, and being imprecise in their further activities. And what we also see is that with recent developments in this area, cloud enablement and using cloud software as a service solutions, we see that the unique URL have been increased heavily over the last 2 or 3 years, whereas the malware infections have decreased quite significantly and aren't really visible, hardly visible anymore. So this is a real shift in the attack surface. Attackers had been always approaching people, but it's even increasing now due to the fact that cloud accounts are available and accessible through the cloud from everywhere in the world. What we also see is that from apparently trusted sources like SharePoint and OneDrive and Office forums, a lot of URLs, malicious URLs, are being shared. So somebody receiving an email or a notification with a SharePoint link, with a OneDrive link, or an Office form link, this looks very valid, very reasonable, very serious, and not really dangerous or malicious. So the danger is that somebody is clicking on it without any further thoughts that this might be an attacker addressing somebody in the organization. As well, another point is that the attacks are also getting even craftier. So in this little picture down here on this slide, it should show you that through an attack, there are 2 attack streams running in parallel, and in the end, the target is, of course, to silence download a piece of malware which is maybe a keylogger, which is maybe ransomware or something else, to compromise the account or compromise the organization. What we also see is, and it's also stated by the FBI, that we have about during the last 3 years, 2016 to 2019, or is it 4 years? I'm not quite sure. 16, 17, 18, 4 years. We have a damage of our loss of 26.2 billion seen in the field of business email compromise and email account compromise variants. In the early days, somebody really pretended to be somebody by display name spoofing or by utilizing lookalike domains, like instead of using Microsoft, using Microsoft with an O in the middle or with an A or something. So little minor changes which are hardly visible to fake a real person. But this has been, or is getting more and more replaced by those guys really being you or taking over your identity by compromising the account, taking over cloud accounts and acting on behalf of somebody. So this to reach this goal, of course you can start a password spray attack, or you start phishing campaigns to get some of the credentials, or you can even position malware in the organization, keylogger stuff, for example, to get all the information in order to work as if you are a real employee of the organization. Like in our first example with Lazio Rome, where somebody conquered an account, compromised an account, and read all the emails and everything that has to do with this player transfer. What else do we see in the outside world? We see that 85% of the organizations are heavily targeted over the last 6 months, or in this case, it's the first half 2019. So the numbers probably have increased quite significantly again. We see lots of organizations with compromised accounts, so where there are real issues, accounts being already taken over, emails being read, calendar entries being read, etc., etc. So this is already with almost 50% of the organizations the case right now. And of those organizations being compromised, we see that even VIP accounts have been addressed and breached. So that's also, of course, even more severe danger than if you breach an account of somebody that is not so high in the organization. Okay, so that's more or less the landscape we are in. And in order to avoid such attacks like this BEC scam, this 2 million euros transfer, we need not only to protect our emails. Email security is key in many ways, but we also need to control and secure our cloud environment even stronger, due to the fact that this is accessible from everywhere in the world at every time from everybody. Now, before I start into the initial question of this dialogue, how to deal with cloud security, I just want to make sure you are aware of some definitions. The definition present to you is Gartner's definition of the cloud security market in total. So Gartner divides the market in mainly 3 areas. It's SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, which I translated or put it in a sentence here. So we have software as a service, which means applications such as Office 365, G Suite, Salesforce, Slack, Dropbox, Box, whatever. So this is all software as a service. Probably applications you are aware of and you use by yourself. Infrastructure as a service, which also covers about 1/3 of the market. Infrastructure as a service are instances such as Google Cloud, such as Microsoft Azure, such as Amazon Web Services. So infrastructures where you can set up your own servers, you can allocate computing power, you can allocate storage, and so on. I just get a message that am I still well understood, or is there an issue? I hope so. Okay, I'll just continue. And then we have the platform as a service space, where you more or less buy bare metal and take care of everything else by yourself. Within this market, we have 3 toolboxes or tool sets of cloud security tools. So we have, first of all, Cloud Access or Cloud Account Security Broker, CASB, called CASB, which is the area Proofpoint is focusing quite heavily. But there are also 2 other areas which I'd like to explain very quickly to you. It's CSPM, it's Cloud Security Posture Management. This area of tool sets of software is about analyzing the setup of your infrastructure as a service environments, whether it's on best practice level, whether there are any misconfigurations, and how the administrators work and act on this and in these environments. This is more about controlling these environments and also cost reduction in some ways. We also have CWPP, which is Cloud Workload Protection Platform. With CWPP, the idea is to control the east-west traffic, the lateral movement between databases in those infrastructure as a service environments. So applications usually have access to different databases, and you want to control who is doing what with those databases inside this infrastructure as a service environment. This is something CWPP where Proofpoint is currently not engaged. Just to make this clear for our channel partners here in this webinar. So we are focusing strongly on CASB. We also have CSPM capabilities. Maybe it's not our strong point right now, but we're getting stronger and stronger over time in this area as well. So if a customer is thinking about or interested in CSPM mainly, it would be not our sweet spot, but it's still reasonable to discuss these issues because we have solution here as well. Okay, so let's start. So how do we handle cloud security in an easy and straightforward way? The main issue is we need to be able to identify and remediate cloud account compromises. So in order to do that, we need to understand how this account compromises usually are achieved. So we have mainly two ways attackers get into the cloud accounts. The most common probably effort is to run brute force campaigns. So you try to type in username and password and different types of password quite heavily into these login pages. And if you're successful, you are in. And that's mainly what brute force campaigns are about. And another point is that if there are leakages of passwords and username and passwords from other sources, such as maybe LinkedIn. There had been a LinkedIn breach about 10 years ago. So you may be even able to use this information in order to brute force the accounts more easily in a more efficient way, because you maybe know already the syntax of the password the user is usually using. Another way is, of course, you start phishing-related campaigns. You send emails to your targets, and you try to convince them on clicking different things or on installing software or doing certain activities which help you to get a foothold into this environment. Okay, so now in general, what need the customer to do in order to prevent or to identify those cloud accounts, those compromised cloud accounts, and how to remediate those? So we recommend very strongly to start looking into the emails the environment is receiving, because email threats, as you've seen from the attack surface or from the attack slide I've just shown, is one of the easiest ways of reaching the target. And so if you're aware of the emails that come in, you may get a pretty good picture on who is attacked and who is maybe very in danger on clicking on certain links. It's also interesting to check your environment whether you see and identify internal phishing mails. So if there are internal phishing mails in your environment, in the customer's environment, it's probably pretty clear that this is not a valid business purpose for this organization. It's the opposite. It's somebody inside the organization trying to utilize this cloud account he has already compromised to get into other accounts as well, into more important accounts eventually. Another point, another indicator of compromise is, of course, if you realize that your email gateway is sending outbound spam emails quite heavily. It's not only that you may be locked down from internet providers or from email providers as being a spammer, but it's also a sign that somebody has already breached one of your accounts and uses this for sending out other email campaigns to other target audiences. Of course, those BEC campaigns we've just spoken about in the Lazio Rome case is also, of course, a sign, but that's very hard to see and very hard to spot, to be honest. What else the organization should take care of is, of course, the look for unusual access events or unusual access tries. So first of all, the location an access event is coming from is one identifier or indicator of compromise eventually. So if somebody is logging in from China and the organization doesn't have a subsidiary in China, so who's accessing the Office 365 application in this case anyway? Maybe somebody on vacation. Okay, then we need to check a little bit deeper. Another point is that if we see, for example, in our tools, unusual user agents such as CBA and prod, which stands for legacy protocols such as IMAP and POP, post office protocols, then this is also a typical sign that an attacker is trying to access the environment as well, because usually those CBA and prod agents are not used by larger organizations at least, or only in very special cases where maybe software is not able to use other protocols such as instead of IMAP. And of course, we also leverage our threat intelligence quite heavily. So we look into the IP address, we look into the network, where is the requester coming from, which network is he using? Is it maybe a Tor network, which is quite also and dangerous it's an identicator of compromise as well if somebody's coming with a Tor network to your login page. What else to look for is, of course, to monitor activities, because maybe you only have seen suspicious login events at some point in time, but they may not be successful or not been rated as successful. But in the end, if you start monitoring your mailboxes or your environment quite heavily, you will probably see that maybe somebody's starting excessive sharing or excessive downloads from documents, or somebody has already started email forwarding to another email account, which is also a very, very strong indicator that somebody's inside the environment already, or that somebody installed third-party apps or has permissions in third-party applications, which are also a very dangerous sign for being compromised. And a very strong part we are focusing on is that we want to put the end customer in the position to automatically remediate all this kind of suspicious accounts or compromised accounts in a nice and easy way. So what we can do for our customers is we can automatically terminate risky sessions. So if we monitor something suspicious, we can immediately terminate. If the rule applies, we can suspend user accounts quite easily. We can ask for for password changes quite easily, or we can remove OAuth tokens of third-party applications in this environment to stop data from being leaked or or stop somebody from having access any longer. And also, of course, step-up authentication is one of the key assets we can provide for our customers in this area. The next point we like to focus on with our customers when we have conversations with customers is, of course, how to secure the access to cloud applications in real time. So that's also quite tough to achieve, because usually we are working with an API, so we get the information at a later point in time. So things happen, this is going to be logged, and then we see the information. But this might be even too late in some cases. So we want to be mainly in real time controlling the environment and the access and regulate the access to our cloud accounts. Our solution can do quite a lot, or is doing it in a stepped approach in this case. So step one is, of course, we want to automatically block suspicious logins. So if we see that somebody is coming from a suspicious region or coming from a Tor network, we can build a rule and block it immediately. These events will not occur at all. nice because it really reduces the attack surface quite significantly in a first, and it's not a very very hard step to take, and it reduces the attack surface quite significantly. The second step is, of course, to tighten controls on privileged and high-risk users. You may be aware of our email security solutions, and that we propose a people-centric approach here, so we can really analyze the employees of an organization and see which users are privileged, which users are under high attack, which users are maybe not as alert as others and click on everything they see. So we have high-risk users, we have privileged users. We can really identify those people in the environment quite easily with our email security solution. And we can use this information in the cloud solutions environment as well. So if we, for example, see that we have a very attacked person trying to access the logon or the certain SaaS application, we can, for example, as been seen in this example, we can either block him if he's not coming with a meta network, for example, and if it's a device, if he's a manager or at a certain level, at a certain privilege. So that's quite nice and really makes it very secure for those VAPs and VIPs in an organization environment. The third step, of course, to control access to data by an unmanaged device. We believe and we see that accessing data by an unmanaged device is more or less the start, because attackers don't usually have a managed device. They usually come with an unmanaged device. So this is a very nice way of trying to reduce this risk from this area as well. So if you see somebody coming in with an unmanaged device, you can force him, like written down here in this rule, to a corporate network. And if he's not getting access. Or if he is coming in from an unmanaged device, you can even force him into an isolation mode so that he cannot upload or download any piece of data. But I think I have a slide on this later on as well. So how does it work? Maybe just to show you what it looks like in real life. So we have a user trying to access a software as a service application, going to the login page. The login page is rerouting this user to our Proofpoint CASB solution, so which is in general a SAML gateway. We work with every SAML 2.0 protocol identity provider together, so that's not an issue at all. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of different identity providers we can work with, like Okta, like Microsoft ADFS and others. So we reroute this request, or we forward this request to the identity provider, who is telling us, yes, this user is known, the password is all right, so he could easily access the environment. But then we start forwarding this request to our policy engine, and the policy engine is taking care of the security-related threats in this special case. So we ask our threat intelligence, we utilize our threat intelligence and correlate this event with other events we have seen in the market. We do a directory lookup, we check which device is being used, we check the geolocation, and also, of course, the IP reputation, and correlate it together. And we are giving this event a certain risk score. And based on the risk score, we can decide and we can take action. We can either block the user from accessing the SaaS application, or of course, we can allow the access and grant access. But in case we are not totally sure, we can ask for a further authentication by multi-factor, for example. Or in case we see that this is an unmanaged device, we send this user into isolation environment and say, listen, you can have a look into the data, but you cannot download or upload anything, and you can maybe write emails, but you cannot download any sensitive data to your local unmanaged device eventually. A further option is utilizing our zero trust network access. So you may be aware that we bought Meta Networks a couple months ago, or maybe half, which is really a cool technology, additionally capable of granting users access to certain areas, not only SaaS applications, That can be easily done with the SAML gateway as well, but also, let's say, on-prem applications that are hosted by the end customer as well. So that's also nice to maybe at another occasion. Maybe somebody's doing a webinar on this as well pretty soon. Okay, then another very strong point of our solution is the protection of the data itself in cloud applications. That's the third major area we are active in. And so first of all, when dealing with data, we first of all need to know where is the data, where is it sitting, in which applications, in which storage stacks. And our solution comes with out-of-the-box identifiers. I think there are about 250 of those, identifying credit card information, social security numbers, or health insurance, personal information. Those kind of things, they are defined, and the detectors are very capable of identifying all kinds of different sensitive data in all the documents that are going to be transferred over the CASB infrastructure. But what else? On top of this, we also can use a dictionary, for example, or different names or words we can look for. So, for example, if a customer has a very sensitive project going on, maybe a merger acquisition type scenario, and he uses for this a funny nickname, and so you could choose, or you could search for this nickname, for this project name in documents, and you can of course correlate this with other words as well, like strictly confidential or mergers and acquisitions, or any kind of combinations are of course possible, and our solution is able of identifying those documents and and maybe even emails, etc., to protect them from going outside the organization to unsecure environments. What we also can provide with our CASB solution is that we understand how the users are handling the data, and especially for high-risk users, that's quite important. So we know the typical behavior, we know what they are doing in their normal business days, and if we see some anomalies in this environment, we can of course interfere and block certain activities. This is also a very important part for privileged users such as IT admins or execution or exec admins or HR or very senior management and so on, where we can really correlate the usual behavior of high-risk users with certain events, and can correlate this and build rules around it. Our DLP, let's say our DLP tools or DLP capabilities are based on a three-step process, more or less. So first of all, we monitor the environment. We try to find alerts, we audit the environment, and we fine-tune the environment in the end. We are doing this by first of all trying to identify all kinds of false negative so we want to find all the use cases that we can see in this environment, and then we drill down and see, okay, listen, we don't want to have certain activities being executed, so we are building rules on that, and of course this will probably lead to some false positives in this case, and we want to reduce the false positives to a minimum, which is in order not to overload the SOC teams by white noise. That's what we don't want. And in the end, after we really fine-tune the DLP rules, only let's say the alerts that are really where somebody really needs to look into are going to be sent to the SOC teams, and will be of course again correlated to potentially compromised account incidents and so on, so that we get a complete picture of attacking accounts, maybe compromised accounts, unnormal behavior around data activities, and then we can take action and raise, of course, the visibility for potential leaking and sensitive data. Which leads us to the protection part of the solution. Protection means that we can automatically, for example, remove sensitive files from cloud applications. that we can reduce sharing permissions for sensitive files at rest. So if somebody has a file shared on OneDrive as a public, which is from our detectors identified as sensitive information, which should not be shared publicly, then we can automatically reduce the sharing permissions to public, to private, not to public, in order to avoid that this data, that somebody outside the organization has access to this data. We can, of course, implement contextual DLP policies for automated remediation. So if you see that somebody is trying to send sensitive data outside, of course, we want to block this event from being executed. And of course, the prevention of risky data sharing in the cloud is one major aspect, but that's in general the case for DLP and cloud solutions. And the third step in our approach is that we also want to educate the users and to reassess business processes if necessary. So if we see that such events are happening quite heavily from certain users, we need to, of course, notify the end users or train the end users. And here we have, again, a connection to our security awareness training program. So we could use PSAT to train our employees, to train the workforce in a very efficient way, so that unwanted sharing of sensitive files will not happen in the future that often. I wouldn't say it doesn't happen anymore, but it wouldn't happen that often. We can, of course, reprioritize certain incidents because we can correlate it with compromised accounts and VIPs and number of violations, for example. So this is also one of the assets of the solution that will lead to a streamlined and very nice approach here. And of course, in the end, if need be, we need to reassess approval processes within the customer environment in order to prevent data leakage. This can be very nicely integrated into existing SIEM environments as well, so that the SOC teams can handle those events quite easily. The fourth area, our CASB solution is very well positioned, is the third-party app area. So in general, the CASB solutions came usually from the shadow IT visibility area. So customers wanted to know which of my users or what are my employees using as cloud applications. So first of all, they wanted to see visibility, to get visibility. But nowadays, I think our customers usually have a pretty good view on what's going on, but they don't have a pretty good view on the third-party applications that the employees are using with their Office 365 or G Suite environments. So for example, we see with our customers that we analyze about 1,500 organizations, that we see about 100 applications, third-party applications being installed in the Office 365 environment, about 1,300 even with G Suite. Okay, maybe that's because of the open platform approach Google is taking here with G Suite and with Android, and so it's even a bigger number here. And we see that about 2 million cloud accounts out of the 12 million we have in our let's say in our environment, that we can monitor in our environment. 2 million of those are at least attached to one OAuth app in this case. So this is a real issue. And why is it an issue? The issue is that if you install, or in this case, let's stick to this example. A threat actor is sending an email to somebody in the customer's organization, built with a Lotus Blue toolkit, for example. And the email being sent is an invitation for this user to install a certain third-party application. Like, listen, we have your nice feature. It enables you to move your diary entries into Salesforce, just to make an example. And then this user thinks, oh, that's a cool feature, I like to use that, installs the application, which has extensive access to the Office 365 environment, and informs the threat actor from the behind, and also allows the threat actor having access through this third-party application into this environment. And the bad thing about third-party applications is that they are authenticated by an OAuth token, which means This OAuth token is raised once or in the beginning, and it has a validity time of about 30 days. So if somebody is granting access to this for this application, it's granted for 30 days in general. So that's a long time an attacker can use to really drill into this environment and exfiltrate data or start certain other activities, upload malicious code, and so on. So this is really a big threat to the organizations and something you need to be aware of. The main point is, as this slide says, it's a direct access and control into the customer's core business cloud applications, which makes it so dangerous. The threat is, of course, malicious apps can be used to infiltrate and take over accounts, or that malicious code is installed, which is affecting the environment as well. Of course, data leakage is a problem, and of course, we have compliance issues. This is a real threat. We offer here as well, again, a step approach. We have a security checklist for our customers to deal with this third-party applications. So, of course, the customer should review and audit third-party applications on a regular basis who have access to Office 365 and G Suite. So there needs to be an ongoing monitoring from our point of view. The customer. So our solution also brings the customer into the position to prioritize assessment of third-party applications. So we provide a severity code, we provide additional information. So and also the number count of users using the app, which might be also an issue. So this is a way of prioritizing the decision-making process on those third-party applications. And then we of course propose to blocklist known malicious applications right away. So there's no need for allowing third-party applications which are known malicious applications at all in the entire environment. And you can do this quite easily with the CASB tool. Yeah, that's what's there for. And on the other hand, if you see applications that are really nice and valuable, of course you should whitelist or safe list those applications as well. So you have a blocklist, whitelist approach here in this case, and our solution is offering all the tools and all the information that's needed to take the decisions on those tools. And of course, if you see somebody is using malicious or unsanctioned applications, then you need to, of course, to have the capability of remediation, of taking those applications off the shelf. And that's can be done with our solution as well. Now, another area of interest is, of course, infrastructure as a service. As I raised initially, if you remember the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the definitions I've showed you, then we see also infrastructure as a service is a place we are playing in. So what are we doing here? So first of all, we discover resources in sanctioned infrastructure as a service account. So if, for example, an organization has AWS in use, we can discover all the resources in this environment, and we can also discover in other areas like Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud, which leads to direct savings for the customers in the most cases, because you can really look into this environment and see, okay, how many instances have you raised, and with every instance, with every storage you buy, you have to pay for it in the end. And so if you have the capability of controlling it with a tool such as our solution in this case, you can of course reduce the spend in this area quite easily and from the start. What we of course provide with our solution is this so-called cloud security posture management, which means we check your environment, the customer's environment, on certain standards, on best practices, and on known vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, etc. So this is helpful to run these environments in a compliant way with all kinds of regulations and with best practices and standards. What we also can do about this environment is we can use our user behavior analytics in order to check whether the admins or the administrative activity is done and performed in a proper way. So if we see that admins are usually working Monday to Friday, and if suddenly somebody is starting working on a Saturday night, at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's probably curious, and we would raise an alarm in this case. Or if we see that somebody is taking down instances, this might also be something that is critical for an organization. We would also alarm and raise certain awareness to this. And of course, in this case as well, real-time DLP is an important point. Amazon Web Services, as well as all the others, are also providing storage solutions, S3 buckets, for example, and those storage devices, storage capabilities needs to be controlled as well in a sense of DLP protection. So, and just to show you a little bit around what this solution can do for the environment. So, for example, we can identify all the resources across all cloud providers in a single console. So we don't need to jump from Azure to Google Cloud or to Amazon Web Services in order to get a picture. We see it all complete in this console and can take actions on it. We see in the lower part of this screen, or on this screen, you can see that there are certain instances installed, and you could of course take actions and allow or deny further access or further usage. You can drill down quite easily, and you can take decisions. That's what it's here for, and which leads to savings right away. Another point, as stated before, is to control and to discover unapproved infrastructure as a service accounts and resources. So if somebody is using this Amazon Web Services account, or is creating devices, or is creating servers and using storage, etc., which is not being approved by the organization, you can stop it. Of course, you can identify it, you can stop it. And you can, of course, provision legitimate accounts for the organization as you like and as you wish, in a controlled way. That's what it's for. Now, cloud security posture management, as said before, it's giving our customers a perspective guidance for security configurations. So you get like you can see here, there are 42 recommendations on the screen, which are provided automatically by our cloud security posture management part of the solution. So customer can look at it, can take action, either follow our recommendations, or for certain reasons maybe not follow the recommendations, but is now in a very good position to somehow control the environment in a nice and neat way, which wouldn't be possible if you don't have a solution such as this available on your fingertips. It's intended for admins and security specialists, of course, because it's a very powerful tool. You can really mess up the environment if you're not careful. Of course, we are relying on all sorts of benchmarks which we can find in the market. As you can see down there, ISO 27001 is one of the frameworks we can rely on, or PCI DSS, or any other regulation is being included in this assessment. And of course, probably the most important part from my point of view is to detect suspicious administrative activity. If somebody is taking down the environment or servers, or doing it at unusual times, you should detect and alert abnormal and suspicious behavior as well, of course. Yeah, that's quite a nice use case for this environment as well. DLP, as said before, we need to monitor the file activities. We need to see what's in the buckets, in the containers, and we can, of course, remediate active sharing of files and buckets, as we can do for the other SaaS applications as well. So we have similar capabilities in this environment, as well as with the SaaS environments we've seen before. Now, our Proofpoint Cloud App Security Program. Maybe one point that's really which you need to be aware of as one of our partners trying to sell it outside with your end customers and so on. So we are active in mainly three parts of the game. It's threat protection, so understanding the threats, controlling the environment, and avoiding account compromises and in the end business email compromises as well. We are in the space of data security, which means DLP functionality is included in our solution, and it's easy to use. It's not we don't need to okay, that's maybe one point that comes anyway on the slide later. We don't need to roll out an agent to the endpoints or to the servers in order to run DLP in this environment, which makes it very nice and very easy to come to results in the end. We provide a complete cloud governance view on this environments, which means we can control third-party applications. We of course create visibility into all other SaaS applications used, such as our competitors do as well, and which have been the main use case in the early days of CASB. So we do this in a maybe even better, but I don't want to really pose on that. Our stronghold really is threat protection because of the correlation with our threat intelligence. It's our easy to use DLP functionality, and it's our focus on third-party applications. These are the main areas which I believe Proofpoint is really making a difference for customer environments. And the bottom line is it's an agentless architecture. I need to reiterate it at this point. So if a customer is interested in trying to test our solution, and that's my final slide in the end, it's my ask for you guys to go out and check with your customers. If they want to assess their risk, it's an easy, quick, no-risk setup. We can onboard our end customers within 50 minutes or so. So the only thing they need to do is they need to provide our CASB solution access to their tenant, which, in some cases maybe needs to be they need to get approval for that, maybe internally, but usually it's not an issue. So they install our application environment. We get a full-blown access to, let's say, Office 365 or Microsoft Azure or what else, and can provide immediately insights into what's going on in the environment. Of course, first, let's say, valid trends or valid alerts and so on come after 2, 3, 4 days eventually, because our user behavior tool or user behavior part of the solution needs to learn how this customer what is the typical activities of certain customers, of certain employees in a certain time, which needs some time to really evolve. And but after a couple of days, we can already build rules. We can see maybe even find compromised accounts, and it's not seldom that we have very nice results there, like the so-called smoking gun, somebody leaking sensitive information, somebody being compromised, where we see malicious activities going on, etc., etc., etc. So my ask would be, take the risk, go out, talk to your customers, and provide them and offer them a POC with our CASB solution. And I think you and the customer wouldn't regret it. From what my experience is in the DACH and the Benelux market right now. Yes, that's about it for now, for today. The idea was to give you an overview on which areas we are active in, which we can cover with our solution. So you have an idea on the use cases, and you probably also have an idea in areas where we are not as good eventually, like cloud workload protection platform. That's the one area we are not active right now. So if somebody is asking for this, we are not probably the right vendor to talk to in this case. But for all the other use cases you've seen here and I've shown you, I hope this is pretty clear. Yeah, and you find it useful for your conversations with your customers. That's my presentation.